So the temperature is dropping and you are needing to keep warm. You might have to be conserving your fuel, or maybe your power is out completely and you are having to layer up in order to stay warm. Today I'm going to be walking through what you need to be preparing in order to have the right kinds of layers for a grid down or no power situation where your clothes will act as your first line of defense. So let's jump into it. Hey friends, if you are new here, my name is Brecky and this is Sustainable Prepping, and I am here to empower you through preparedness. You don't have to be scared when emergencies happen. You can be prepared. And being prepared means that you can lead in a place of calm and confidence. I am gonna go and change into my base layer to show you the very first thing you need to have in order to be ready for a grid down situation. So your first layer of defense against the cold is going to be your base layer. You can use synthetics, you can use wool. There's all kinds of options for you, but you want to start with a layer close to your skin that's going to wick moisture away and trap heat. All right, so you have your base layer. Now, my shirt is made of a wool synthetic blend, which means it won't shrink as much in the wash, but it is going to trap heat close to my body. My leggings, are a full synthetic. When you're planning your base layer, whatever you decide, you can choose from synthetics, you can choose from a merino wool, or you can even choose silk. Silk actually is going to do the very best job of trapping heat against your body. It just doesn't hold up and wear and tear. So you have to think about that. You are going to want to make sure that whatever fiber you are using against your skin wicks moisture away. So cotton is not ideal. Cotton's fabric actually holds on to moisture, which is why it's very cooling in the summertime, but we don't need cooling when it's already cold out. So you want to have a layer that will trap heat in, but if you do sweat a little bit, it's going to pull that sweat away from your skin so you don't get chilled. This is essential. More than anything else, you want to invest in a good base layer. You want it to be something where you can move around and isn't too bulky, because we're going to be layering on top, but you also want something that's comfortable but doesn't itch your skin, that doesn't cause irritation, and this is going to be where we start. If you have to build a micro shelter inside your home, or you are using this in an outdoor shelter for some reason, then for a lot of folks at nighttime before they crawl into a sleeping bag, they might just wear this layer as their pajamas. That's because a sleeping bag will trap even more heat and we don't want to sweat. So think about this as that long john layer that you're really not going to take off until you get more heat back, right? This is your all the time layer, your #1 investment. And because this is your all the time layer, natural fibers like silk and wool don't hold on to stink. So if you are concerned that you would have to be wearing this against your skin for several days, you might want to skip the synthetics and invest in the wool. If you're not that concerned about it, don't worry. Now that you have your base layer covered, let's go look at layer 2. Okay, so now you have on your mid layer. Mid layer is where you can actually add several layers in the middle. This is going to depend upon how cold it is, what you have, your body type, how much exercise you're going to be doing, but this is the layer where you are going to be able to take things on and off to adjust to your heat level. There are several things for you to think about as you are picking out your mid layer. Here I actually have a 100% cashmere sweater. I know, but we got this at a thrift store. It's technically my husband's. He's had it for like 20 years, but these things last forever. Now, if you are choosing natural fibers, particularly like wool, remember that in their care and keeping, you must wash them on a cold cycle, and then you cannot stick them in the dryer. They will shrink up and you won't be able to use them. So as you're thinking about what works for you, remember that. If you don't think that you'll be able to take care of a full wool, 100% wool item like a sweater like this, then don't get it. Get a synthetic or get a wool blend that won't have that same shrinkage. Just a little note. But you want to have layers that are going to help trap that heat. So this is a sweater. I have on a pair of jeans over my leggings. This is where if you have lined jeans, they are absolutely going to come in handy. Lined jeans like this are great and can be layered. Now they're a little bit heavy, physically heavy, but they're gonna really do a great job of trapping your heat in. They are not gonna add too much bulk, and they're really going to be comfortable, give you a lot of movement, and keep that heat trapped in. The difference between planning to do outside work and outside layering versus inside layering is that you don't have to worry about as much activity. What we want is comfort and heat trapping, right? We're not necessarily going to be outside chopping wood or clearing debris. If you are, I'll give you a few notes at the end to think about, but really this is sheltering in your micro shelter, maybe going out to make your warm drink, fill your hot water bottles, and then bringing them back in and sheltering, right? We're not doing a lot of strenuous activity. So these would be great. You could layer a set of blended sweatpants if you have a set of sweatpants that are like an acrylic cotton blend. Unfortunately, one of the things that you probably have but you should avoid is the hoodie. I know we all love a 100% cotton hoodie, but again, cotton does not retain heat the best. Now you could put this over, right, as another layer over the sweater and just bulk it up if you need to and if that's what you have. But if you can invest in a sweater like this, in a good fat old-fashioned flannel shirt. Here's another one that we picked up at a thrift store. It's a real flannel shirt. These are ways that you can add layers that will do a much better job of like keeping heat trapped to your body without adding too many layers. And again, love cotton, love your hoodie, but it's really not going to keep you as warm as other things. Okay, so this is a way that you can add layers, right? You can add layers, you can take away layers. I've just added that layer of flannel. So now I have my base layer, right? You can see my base layer. I've got my flannel layer, and now I have my wool sweater layer. And this is a way that I can, if I get too warm, I can take off the sweater. I can then take off the flannel and put the sweater back on if that's not warm enough. So the goal of your layering system and why we have all these layers is that you can regulate your body temperature. We don't want to get so hot that we start sweating. Sweating is going to then have that moisture against our skin and possibly chill us. So there's sayings in like the mountaineering community that sweating leads to death, right? And because it can cause hypothermia. Now, hopefully we're not in a situation where we're as exposed to the elements as people who are intentionally going out mountaineering, but we are planning for a potential grid down situation where our central air isn't working. We may or may not have a generator or a fireplace that can provide some heat for us indoors. So we're practicing this layering method to take the best of that mountaineering school, those outdoor adventure folks, and bring it into a survival situation. Now I have 3 layers. I have my base layer and I have 2 layers of a mid layer. We're gonna look at one more layer you can put on top of this as your outer layer for your indoor situation, and then what you would do to adjust it for an outdoor situation. Let's do it. Okay, so I am rocking a fleece, but you certainly could have any other kind of mid-weight jacket. If you had a puffer jacket that wasn't too big, if you wanted to rock a vest, you could do that. But this is my final layer for my indoor layering system. As you can see, I still have room. I could add probably another layer if I needed to. Now, the reason why this is not something that has waterproof, windproof elements to it is because I'm indoors and I want something where I can move around, where I can lay down comfortably. I could easily add another jacket on top of this. Again, we're sort of just layering. You could use a fleece, you could use really your winter coat could be here. The issue is it can be bulky, and unless you are really freezing, you do want to be comfortable enough to sit, to stand, to move around, to huddle with others, right? So if you're sitting in your micro shelter, you want to be able to move and actually sit without like the gap exposing between your back and your bum. You want to make sure there's padding under your backside because the floor will be having cold radiation. Now for me and my climate and temperature, having this many layers is going to do a really good job of trapping in that body heat. Add a hot water bottle right in here, just zip that puppy up right there, whoop, and that will keep me nice and warm. If I'm going to be going outside and I have to do work and it is quite cold outside, I have one more layer to add, but the key will be to take this layer off when you are coming into your micro shelter, because this is where you're going to have the moisture, the condensation get on this layer. So let me show you this final outdoor layer we would have in this setup. Okay, so Here is our heavy coat. This one actually doesn't have the liner zipped in because when we used to live in West Virginia, it used to get down into the single-digit degrees. So this was one of our coats we had way back then. Now that we live in North Carolina, we live in the central part of a state where it doesn't routinely get that cold, though we are prepared. This would be my outer layer, okay? It is got a moisture resistant, although not totally waterproof outside layer, and this would help keep all of that heat in, but it would also help keep these inner layers dry, okay? It would keep these inner layers dry. I've got a hood. Now I'm gonna be showing you hats and gloves in just a second, so I have not neglected that, but you wanna be able to have this outer layer that unless it is you need to put on every single piece of clothing you own. Unless you're in that state, this is something you would take off as you enter your micro shelter, as you enter your sort of indoor body heat trapping space, because the wet and the damp from outside would be on this. So we'd want to take this off to prevent any moisture, if it's snowing out, from bringing it into our space, okay? We want to keep the damp away from these inner layers, and we don't want to accidentally sit on it, get our blankets wet, anything like that. So this would be my outer layer as far as jackets go. And let me tell you, this is a Jerry. I have no idea where we got this. We've had this for years and years and years. It's not fancy, it's not Patagonia or North Face, but it certainly did the job well for us when we were living at almost 2,500 feet up in the mountains in West Virginia. The other thing, if you live someplace really cold where you anticipate snow, is of course to have your snow pants. You might take off your jean layer and just have your leggings in your snow pants and then into your snow boots. So having that layer available, again, unless you are truly in a sub-zero situation where you're wearing every single piece of clothing inside and there's no other alternatives, this is the kind of thing you would strip out of once you come into your micro shelter in order to prevent the snow and debris and moisture that's on these outer layers from bringing them into your microclimate. So now let's talk about your extremities, hats, fingers, and of course, your toes. Okay, so aside from being really cute, you are going to want to have a hat on 24/7. You lose the most heat from your head, so having a cap on, a beanie on is going to be really, really important. It doesn't really matter as much that this is wool or acrylic or cotton, though like I said, cotton does the least good job of trapping heat, but getting something on your head, man, is gonna help keep critical heat into your body. So number one, get yourself a cap. The other thing you're gonna wanna have is socks. This is a pair of merino wool hiking socks. I have another pair on my toesies right now. And having two pairs is important. If you can, having two pairs of wool socks or a wool acrylic blend sock is going to be key. Why? Well, let me tell you, as a living history reenactor, I knew what it was like to wear socks all day in your boots and then crawl into bed in just your long johns or your chemise and pantaloons. But you always took off your socks from the day and put on clean socks because your feet are going to sweat. In fact, for most of us, our feet will sweat even if the rest of our body is cold. Why that is, a biologist can tell us, I can't, but you do sweat into your socks. And even a good pair of wool socks will absorb that moisture and hold on to it in the night. Therefore, your feet will get cold at night if you're wearing dirty socks. So if you can, always have two pairs of socks. You can get by with one beanie and one set of gloves, but two pairs of socks. Your day socks that will dry out overnight, you leave them out. Yes, they'll be cold when you put them on, but you leave them out so that they can dry, and then you have your night socks that you put on. They will be dry when you put them on, and your feet will stay warmer at night. That's just a little tip from me to you. Always have two pairs of wool socks. Wool is the best. Synthetic acrylic is next best. Again, avoid cotton.
Yes, my socks don't match because I have 4 kids. Who has time to match socks?
The last piece of this puzzle is going to be your gloves. Now, I like having a fingerless option because it allows me to have some dexterity. These do have the mitten piece that I can button over. Now, these are not going to be great for sub-zero temperatures because they are just an acrylic fabric. But I have ski gloves that I can put on if I'm in that situation. hopefully, we're in a situation where we're trapping enough body heat. We don't need to be wearing ski gloves. But if you are concerned, absolutely getting a pair of ski gloves or getting a pair of fingerless gloves like this so you can do dexterous work, like when you need to maybe be striking your matches and such, doing anything where you need to be handling details, have gloves like this, and then get a big, thick mitten, you know, like a Bernie Sanders mitten. That will allow the heat of your fingers to be trapped in that mitten together so that they're not individual. So if you're really in a cold environment, like a super cold environment, then you may want the mitten style, you might want a finger style and a mitten style, where you're trapping the continual heat of your hands. You can get hand warmers that slide into a mitten, right? I will show you. Slide a hand warmer in there, and then the hand warmer would be able to keep your whole hand warm, all your fingers warm, except for your thumb, poor thumb. If you are someplace with sub-zero temperatures, definitely invest in better insulated handwear, but this is gonna allow me to pick up things, move things around, tie knots, untie knots, zip up things without the thickness and bulkiness of a ski glove. All right, your last element is a scarf of some kind. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be thermal. This is really just going to protect your neck, right, from any chill, and you can just zip it into this outer layer that you've got rocking, and now you are set. Shelter in your microclimate using body heat, residual heat from water that you hopefully have been able to heat up outside and bring in, maybe heating up rocks, wrapping them in towels and bringing them in. This is how you are going to be trapping your body heat when it's cold. Let me tell you, it is getting hot. It's getting hot in here. The great thing about all these layers, of course, is that you can take them off when you get hot. We want to avoid sweating. So, there it is. Friends, comment down below and let me know what you would add. What layers would you add to this list? I have pullover fleeces, I have other zip up hoodies, I have some more comfortable sweatpants style things I would probably wear as well. Let me know what you would be putting on to stay warm if you were having to shelter in place, creating your survival blanket fort. What would you be doing and what would you be wearing? This is a great way, my friends, if you are brand new to preparedness, to have the critical layers already at home. They'll be useful. They don't have to cost a lot of money. You might already have them, but identifying them now means that if there's a crisis, you're not digging through all your stuff. You know where your base layer is. You know what your mid layers would be. You know where your outer layers are. And of course, you have got your sock layer on lock. I hope you guys are all doing well, and if you missed the video on how to create a blanket fort in your house to create a microclimate to stay warm when the power is out, I'm gonna link that video right there so you can catch up with it. This is a matched set, so you use these layers in that blanket fort to stay warm if the power is out in winter time. Hope you guys are staying warm, and until the next video, y'all, happy prepping.